Hey guys, today I'd like to talk to you about Koozer XM 390 hubs. That's Koozer, and these are hubs that go in a bicycle wheel. Let me give you a little bit of history. I've been, about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, I began trying to get the hubs in my bikes a little bit more standardized. And what I started doing was rotating out or switching out the hubs and getting DT Swiss 350 or DT Swiss 240 hubs in my bikes. I really liked how those hubs performed. I liked the fact that, I could get parts for the hubs. And so anyway, I began doing that. And they worked really well. I did have a couple of little problems with the end caps and little things like that, but overall worked very well. Then, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, I decided I wanted to get into wheel building or learn how to do wheel building. And when I looked at it, because I wasn't quite sure how my wheel building skills would turn out, I thought maybe I should get some cheaper parts to build, just to learn how to do wheel building. So instead of building my initial wheels with the DT Swiss hubs, I went in and I looked around and finally hit on that I could get some relatively inexpensive hubs called Koozer hubs. And so I bought a couple of Koozer hubs and built up a couple of wheels with Koozer hubs. In testing out those wheels with the Koozer hubs, I became impressed with the hubs. They seem to perform well. They seem to be pretty good quality in terms of the feel. They worked well with the wheel builds. And so the more I learned about them, the more I liked them. So basically, let me just explain what the Koozer hubs are. I mean, basically, this is the front Koozer XM 390 hub. It's a boost hub, meaning that it's 110 millimeters in the front and 148 in the back. And this is the rear hub, and I have a HG Shimano Hyperglide free hub on this particular hub. And this, as I said, is a XM 390 Boost 148 rear hub. The Koozer hubs, were relatively inexpensive. I could get, 2 hubs for under $100. That would be, a little less than $50 for the front and $50 for the back. So for a total, under $100, I could buy those hubs. Also, in looking around, I found that the parts for these hubs were readily available. It was fairly easy to get free hub bodies, end caps, replacement pawls if the pawls failed on the hubs, and the bearings, standard bearings, so no problem, with changing out the bearings or finding bearings for them. So they seem to be, part friendly, if you will. The hubs come with a point of engagement of 36. That gives you an angle of engagement of 10 degrees. A lot of people consider 10 degrees angle of engagement a minimum. So it does meet that minimum if that's what you're looking at. They do come in different colors. These are black, but they do have red hubs and oil slick hubs. They do come with different free hub bodies. This one, as I said, is a Hyperglide or HG. They do come with the Shimano Microspline, and they do come with the SRAM XD free hub in them. So they can be configured differently. To the best of my knowledge, they're all 6-bolt. I've never seen any that have the Shimano attachment. I think it's called center lock. None of them have that. They're all 6-bolt. They all, to my knowledge, are 32 hubs, so there's no option for 28 or 36 that I'm aware of, but 32 is readily available. And they all are set up for J-bend, so you couldn't use them if you wanted to have a straight pull hub. The hubs, the weight of the hubs overall, I did this little chart to maybe help. These Koozer hubs, the front hub is about 170 grams. The rear hub on the Koozer is about 320 grams. And by the way, I weighed these in my shop with these actual hubs, and my weight machine maybe is not the most precise, but to give you a relative idea. These are DT Swiss. These are non-boost hubs, but the front hub I weighed on the DT Swiss 350 hub was around 160 grams, and the rear non-boost DT Swiss 350 was around 280 grams. I also compared it against the DT Swiss 240, and this is a front DT Swiss 240 non-boost. It was 160 grams. And the DT Swiss 240 rear hub, once again non-boost, was around 240 grams. So I hope that gives you some idea about the weight. They're certainly not the lightest hubs, but the weight doesn't seem to be that bad from my perspective. So anyway, the other thing I just want to talk about with the DT Swiss, I was running some of the hubs with the 54 tooth ratchet and some of them with the 36 tooth ratchet. So with the 54 tooth ratchet, I had more points of engagement, and that worked really well. I really liked the feel of that. But I did notice that I was getting kickback in some downhill situations, particularly when I was going fast and it was starting to get steep. Right when you didn't want it is when you would get a little bit of it. I liked the 36 point of engagement on the DT Swiss hubs better. And so the fact that the Koozer hub has 36 points of engagement, I do like that fact, but that might be a deal killer for some people. Also, the point of engagement when you're looking at higher end hubs is not that good. Higher end hubs, have in some cases 70 or even over 100 points of engagement. So the Koozers aren't in any way trying to compete with those types of hubs. But for what they are, I think they're very good. They certainly feel and look nice. My experience with them is that over the last couple of years, I have on bikes. I have about 10 different bikes with these hubs on them, mostly e-bike applications. I like them in the e-bike application because the weight isn't as much of a penalty there. I've also recommended them to friends of mine, and several of my friends have them on their bikes. Overall, their experience has been the same. None of us have had any bearing issues. None of us have had any ratchet or pawl issues on them. The hubs just keep doing day in and day out what they do. One of my bikes with these hubs on there, I have over 500 miles at this point, and once again, no issues. I have had, in total, I would estimate that maybe I have about 2,500 miles on these in the 10 different ones that I have. So, I've got a pretty good bit of mileage. Certainly, if there was any real flaw, I think it would have popped out by now. But they seem to work well. They do not sell, for those of you who have RockShox forks and you want torque caps. They do not come with torque caps, but what I found is the end caps, the way they're set up, it's very easy to make a torque cap. I've gone on to my metal lathe and using PVC, I've been able to engineer some torque caps, not for all of them, but for some of them, and that seems to work well. The flanges are 56 millimeter flanges. They're the same size on both sides of both the front and back. That makes it a little easier for wheel building, and they're certainly big enough to give you some good bracing angles in the wheel build. Well, as I said, there are plenty of replacement parts. They can be found relatively easily. To give you a feel, the end caps, if you need to change out the end caps or get replacements, they're only around $5 for a set of end caps. Also, if you need to get different pawls, if something happens to the pawls in the rear of the hub, they run around $10 as a replacement. You can get different free hub bodies, so if it came with a HG free hub and you want to change out to a microspline, that you can do that. I've seen the free hub bodies run around 25 bucks. The prices I just quoted are mainly on AliExpress, so you order them and about a month later they show up. The only issue I've had with these hubs is that the free hub body comes off, relatively easy, and it goes back on relatively easily on them. So there's not a big deal taking them apart. But on one set that I have, when you turn the wheel on its side, the free hub body will drop out. And it's not a big deal just to stick it back in there, but it is kind of annoying that it will drop out, particularly when you take the wheel off to do something and the free hub body falls out. The other issue I've had is that once again, not all of them, but in one or two of them, the bushing inside the free hub that separates the bearings will sort of get out of alignment. So when you try to put the free hub buddy back on, you have to mess with it to get it back on. Now, neither one of those are terrible or what I would consider to be deal killers, but they are negatives that I've had with these hubs since I've been using them. So once again, overall, I wouldn't not recommending these to take the place of high-end hubs at all. But if you're looking for, a relatively inexpensive hub that will take the place of an existing hub, or if you want to do a wheel build and you want to have, pretty good hubs, but not have a ton of money in the wheel build, I think these are great alternatives. So anyway, I hope this has given you something to think about and consider, and I will see you guys at the top.